Hello?
Is that Councillor Ritchie? I can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll begin shortly.
Okay.
This is Councillor Justin. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mic check. Mic
This is
check.
Councillor Martinez, Manny Martinez. Can you hear me?
Yes, Councillor, I can hear you, but do you have a Darth Vader behind you? Are we going to get that loop all of the time? Okay.
The city's Department of Municipal Development says crew will continue working around the clock in 12-hour shifts, 30 trucks, 25 on the night.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll remind you to please mute your laptops, computers, and otherwise. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are now good to go. Please forgive the minor interruption there. It is now 6:04 p.m., October 27th, 2020. I hereby call this meeting to order. With a slight change to the agenda, after today's invocation, we'd like to read a proclamation in honor of Mr. Nick Salazar, who passed away on Friday evening. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God, indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Please remain standing as we'd like to have a moment of meditation and invocation from Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. Eternal God, I pray that you bless us in this meeting and keep us. Lord, make your face shine on us, and may you be gracious to us and to our community. I pray that we feel your presence during this meeting. I pray that you are with us wherever we are. I pray that this meeting focuses upon you and your plans for us as a body of believers. I pray blessings over this entire community in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Mayor, I'd also like to request a few minutes of say a few words about State Representative Nick Salazar.
Yes, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you. It is with a heavy heart I request this governing body take a few minutes to recognize the public service of the late Nicolas Leopoldo Salazar, known to most of us as New Mexico State Representative Nick Salazar. Born in Chamita, April 18, 2019, passed away on October 23, 2020. He's survived by his wife of 70 years, Maria Ana Abeta Salazar, their daughter Yvonne and her husband Michael Brown, their sons Earl Salazar and his wife Becky, and also by their son Greg, by his grandchildren Gregory and Delphina Salazar, Nicolas and Ashley Salazar, and also by Amanda Salazar. Great-grandchildren Jesse, Samuel, Nicole, and Caesar Salazar, and also by Jaden Jamerson. Representative Nick Salazar, the public service started very early in his life. He was the president of the class at the Espanola High School. He was also the editor of the school newspaper, The Hornet's Nest. After high school, he began a half-a-century commitment to the constituents of Northern New Mexico. In 1966, he became a county commissioner. In the next year, he was one of the commissioners held hostage in the Reyes Tijerina takeover of the courthouse in Tierra Maria. He served as a commissioner until 1970. In 1973, he ran for the State House of Representatives, where he served until January 1st of 2019, 23 consecutive terms. During his service, he championed many issues: senior services, always advocating for better conditions for the eldest of our state; health legislation, sponsoring bills that kept doctors and nurses here in New Mexico. He always was a champion of education. In 1976, he sponsored a bill that created Northern New Mexico Community College, with a long-term goal of making the school a four-year university to complement the needs of the state and the Los Alamos National Laboratory. Through his service as a state rep, he served on the House of Finance and Appropriations throughout his 23 terms. He also supported the economic development initiatives, chairing the chairman of the National Regional Development Commission. He was also the president of the National Institute of Economic Development and was the chairman of the National Association for Developmental Organizations, an organization that gave over 40 awards to individuals throughout the United States for their contributions to the economic development. This award was named in his honor, the Nick L. Salazar Award. He also served on the Indian Affairs Commission. Because of his connection to Okeowinge, he was able to understand the needs of the tribes. He also understood the importance of working together. He worked on many bills that improved the acequias of northern New Mexico. He was also well known for his work in the advancement of technologies, which was evident through his 66-year career at Llano. He began his career at the National Laboratory in 1950. After many contributions of research, he retired in 1993. In 1993, he became a lab associate, working part-time at the laboratory until 2006. Until 2006, he was named to the Board of Governors for the National Laboratory, where he served until 2016. In 2013, he received a National Achievement Award for Los Alamos National Security. Nick Salazar was a true leader that committed wholeheartedly with faithfulness and loyalty to the people of Northern New Mexico. He led gently so that others would follow willingly. He was able to put aside partisan politics for the greater good. As a consequence, his work will be evident in Northern New Mexico and throughout the state for a very long time. Rest in peace, amigo. Vaya con Dios. Thank you, Mayor.
Counselor, thank you very much for your words of dedication. Certainly his life has brought not only light upon us, but also the lessons that we've learned about family, friendship, dedication, and service will serve us all very well. To that end, I would like to make an official proclamation on behalf of the councilors of the city of Espanola and myself. Whereas the city of Espanola, along with the state of New Mexico and the rest of our nation, has received the disheartening news of the passing of former New Mexico State Representative Nick Salazar. We take this time to reflect on his life of dedication and public service. And whereas Representative Salazar was born April 18th, 1929 in Chamita, New Mexico, and is survived by his wife, Maria Ana Abeta, and three children, Yvonne, Earl, and Gregory. And whereas Representative Salazar first served in the United States Air Force in the late 1940s, and later served on the Rio Arriba County Commission from 1965 to 1969. And whereas Representative Salazar was then elected in 1972 as state representative for District 40 in the state of New Mexico, representing parts of Colfax, Mora, Rio Arriba, and San Miguel counties, as well as his home community of Okeowinge, serving a prolific career of 46 years upon his retirement in 2018 as our state's longest serving legislator. And whereas in 2019, at the New Mexico Conference on Aging, Representative Salazar was awarded the Lovola Burgess Lifetime Leadership Award by Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham amongst a long record of many accomplishments. And whereas Representative Salazar was instrumental in establishing the New Mexico Aging and Long-Term Services Department and the Indian Area Agency on Aging, as he was a tireless advocate for seniors. And whereas it was no secret that Mr. Salazar took great pride as a leader who fostered and strengthened the rural communities across northern New Mexico, serving on numerous committees as representative and 50 years as president of North Central New Mexico Development District, which helped to guide the creation of New Mexico's Council of Governments, economic development districts, and state planning districts. And whereas Mr. Salazar's work ethic is a testament to the capabilities a single individual can possess with the ambition and perseverance to bring a better tomorrow for their community. And whereas the city of Espanola expresses its condolences to the family of Representative Nick Salazar and remind them that his legacy serves as a beacon of light that will shine continuously across the land of enchantment. Now, therefore, I, Javier Sanchez, along with this city council, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Representative Nick Salazar Month, signed by Councilors Peggy Sue Martinez, Dorothy Valdez, John Ritchie, Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar, Councilors Manuel J. Martinez, John Ramon Vigil, Councilor Justin Salazar Torres, and Councilor Denise Benavides. We thank Mr. Representative Salazar for his unending service to the state, and we wish his family well. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Can we take a roll call vote, please? I'm sorry, roll call and determine a quorum.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
Excuse me? In favor?
No.
Ma'am, we're taking a roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were approving agenda. I'm sorry, I walked away for a second. Yes, absolutely honored to be here.
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
Present.
Counselor John Ramon Vigil,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar,
Present.
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
Present.
Counselor Dorothy Didi Valdez,
Present.
Mayor Javier E. Sanchez.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. As we move on to the approval of the agenda, one item that I would like to move is Roman numeral 13, items proposed for council consideration. If we can move that to just before the public hearing that we will have for planning and land use, so that our guests don't have to wait till after that moment. Beyond that, are there any other questions, comments, or changes to the agenda?
Counselor, it's Counselor Denise Benavides. She missed me during roll call, so just wanted to make sure that everyone knows I'm present.
Thank you, Counselor. My sincerest apologies. Can we just make sure
Okay.
the record states that?
Counselor Denise D. Benavides.
I believe she missed me as well,
And Manny Martinez?
and me as well.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
Present.
thank you. My apologies. We have a quorum.
And a glitch in the system apparently, but we'll work that through. Okay, so again, I just wanted to move Roman numeral 13 to right before the public hearing. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, or changes to the agenda?
Motion to approve, sir.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval from Councilor Justin Salazar Torres and a second from Councilor John Ritchie. Is there any discussion?
Under discussion, Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. Under discussion, items G and H are discussion only items?
It also says action items. On top of that, under Roman numeral number 11, it does ask for discussion or action items.
But where it says discussion of and discussion of, so that makes me think that that was advertised as discussion only. It should have just said proposed plan for wellness and training, fire inspection fees.
Are you paying attention?
if it was under discussion and action, it says discussion of. So that has me a little concerned.
So here it says discussion without action, but there it says action. Do you want to go discuss that? We have City Clerk Melissa Velasquez who will address that situation.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the governing body, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez. So what we did for item G is we distinguished that it would be exclusively discussion for the proposed plan. Regardless of the header, we're just stating that there are both discussion items and action items following. For example, letter I for first quarter FY21 budget report would be an action item, as opposed to the two preceding would be discussion only.
Okay, so those items are solely for discussion and not for action. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I didn't know who brought those to the city council agenda. Is there any issue with that?
No, I just wanted to clarify that before we go on. So items G and H are discussion only, correct?
Correct. And
Thank you, Melissa.
oh, sure. Okay.
All right, Mayor, I don't have any other issue. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Well, we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Justin Salazar Torres to accept the agenda with the moving of Roman numeral 13 to before the public hearing, with a second from Councillor John Ritchie. Can we take a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Denise D. Benavides,
In favor.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
In favor of the motion?
Counselor John Ramon Vihil,
In favor of the motion.
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
In favor.
Counselor Dorothy Didi Valdez,
In favor.
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
Also in favor.
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar.
For the motion?
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. We'll now go on to the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve,
So
Mayor.
moved.
Thank you. We have a
Second.
motion from Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar and a second from several others. I did hear, I think, Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez, so we'll take a roll call vote.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor.
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Counselor Dorothy Didi Valdez,
In favor.
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar,
Yes, for the motion.
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
In favor.
Counselor John Ramon Vihil,
In favor.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
Favor of the motion?
Counselor Denise D. Benavides.
In favor.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. We'll now go on to public comments. We don't have any public comments? All right, very good. We'll now go to committee chair updates and councillor comments. We have Councillor John Ramon Vihil.
I just wanted to express my deepest condolences to the family of Representative Nick Salazar. And I just wanted to put this out there. It wasn't mentioned in the proclamation, but a really important role that Representative Nick Salazar served in was he was the president of the Plaza Foundation that constructed the Misión Convento that we have on the plaza. One of the important things to take away from that is that board and that city council of that era decided not to create a plaque of who was on the board and who was on the city council at that time for humility and having respect for the future. But it's really important that Nick Salazar's legacy is remembered, that crowning jewel of our downtown area was attributed to his leadership in the Plaza Foundation. He was still its president as of before his passing. And I think that's really remarkable for our community. And I know we already approved the proclamation, but I think it's really important that achievement and that accomplishment and contribution to our community is recognized. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. We'll next go to Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just would like to add that our Public Works Committee meeting originally scheduled for Tuesday, November 3rd, that happens to be Election Day. So we have rescheduled it to Monday, November 9th. Again, it'll be Monday, November 9th. I just wanted to announce it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Honorable Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Counselor Justin Salazar Torres.
Thank you, Mayor. This question goes for our city manager, Mr. Martinez. I received an email this morning from a constituent that lives on Godfrey Lane. Just wanted to see if maybe he can follow up with me with an email and let me know what the status is on how we can help the constituents of Godfrey Lane, especially now with the weather and so forth. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. Do we have any other Counselor comments?
Mayor?
I'm sorry, who is that? Is that Counselor Manny Martinez?
Yes, sir.
Go for it.
Thank you, Mayor. Just brought some concerns about as far as the official city stating as far as when it comes to Halloween, which is coming up this coming Saturday, as far as trick-or-treating is concerned. A lot of families have been reaching out to me from both the Valley Estates area and the Yates Edition. Some of them are letting me know that they will be putting signs in their yards stating that they won't be serving candy due to the COVID, but they said that they hadn't heard anything as far as from the city if they were going to make it an official, you cannot trick or treat, or what might be going on that is concerned. Again, this is something that was brought up by some constituents. Also, I did speak with a person from the Valley Estates area. They were requesting if it would be possible if the city would be able to do a traffic study on that road, especially with the petition that was signed a couple of weeks back, just to see how much actual traffic is going on within that road. I don't know if we're able to get one of those recorders that the state uses on the highways to see how much traffic flows within that area. Sure.
Thank you, Counselor. Do we have any other Counselor comments?
Mayor, it's Counselor Benavides.
Counselor Benavides, go ahead.
Just really quickly, Mayor, I just wanted to mention one more time that the city of Santa Fe has allocated funding for those recipients that may need assistance paying their rents or their mortgage payments. They're going to be grants of up to $7,500. Anybody that needs that type of assistance or assistance with getting into a rental can definitely go to Santa Fe County's website, or they can contact me and we can definitely guide them and guide them through the application process so that hopefully we can get the assistance out there to these individuals that may need it. And the other thing I wanted to do is just give a quick shout out to the Public Works team for being out there doing all the snow removal and everything that they were doing yesterday. We really appreciate them. So thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing the updates and the opportunities. Thank you, Counselor.
Mayor, I have a question for Counselor Benavides.
Go ahead, Counselor.
Counselor Benavides, that is for the Santa Fe County, that is within the county or within Espanola, within the county, correct? Only?
Correct. It's all of Santa Fe County, city of Espanola. So anybody who's out there, or if you know of anybody, have them just reach out to me and I can walk them through the process and we'll see what we can do to assist them. Even if some people were behind and they've been able to catch up, there's still a possibility of assistance for them, not in the form of reimbursement, but in the form of getting them paid ahead. Same thing with their mortgages. We do have the capability to assist them with getting paid ahead in case that, we don't know how much longer COVID is going to be affecting each of us. So yes, definitely all Santa Fe County, city of Espanola.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you very much, Counselor. Do we have any other questions or comments?
I have a comment, Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to touch base on the importance of having people social distance, not gathering in groups of 5 or more, and continuing to utilize masks when we're not able to social distance. I think that a lot of people got very complacent after a while, and the numbers seem to be steady for our community for a long, long time. But as we all know, the numbers continue to grow very rapidly. In our zip code alone, 87532, we went from 68 cases 2 weeks ago to 111 recently. So it's something that's very serious. The virus is very much here in our community, and we just need to be very vigilant with how we handle it. I would like to see a mandate to have to wear a mask in public by this governing body as an emergency situation, requiring everybody that's out in public to have a mask on. I'd like to see that down the road from this governing body as a commitment to try and keep the most vulnerable of our community safe and healthy, and those being the elderly and those that are immunocompromised. So definitely it's something that I would be interested in doing. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Seeing no other further comments, we'll go on to matters from the mayor. We have 2 proclamations to read today. The first is the recognition of Red Ribbon Week. And with your indulgence, I'd like to remind those of us what that's about with this proclamation here. Whereas alcohol and drug abuse in this nation have reached epidemic stages, youth are moreover impacted by the hardships and pressures of drug and alcohol abuse. And whereas it is imperative that visible, unified prevention education efforts by community members be launched to eliminate the demand for alcohol and drugs, and whereas the National Family Partnership is sponsoring the National Red Ribbon Campaign, offering citizens the opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to drug-free lifestyles, and whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign will be celebrated in every community in America during Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd through October 31st. And whereas for numerous years, the Espanola Department of Public Safety, in collaboration with Project Grace, have promoted youth wellness and a positive approach to learning about the harmful effects of illegal drug and alcohol consumption through educational efforts. And whereas the City of Espanola and the Espanola Public Schools have committed their resources to ensure the success of the Red Ribbon Campaign and will demonstrate their commitment to a healthy and drug-free lifestyle by wearing and displaying red ribbons during the week of October 23rd through the 31st, 2020. Now, therefore, I, Javier E. Sanchez, Mayor of the City of Espanola, together with the City Council in recognition of the efforts of Project Grace, City of Espanola Department of Public Safety, and in support of the Espanola Public Schools initiative to raise awareness through education about the harmful effects of illegal drug and alcohol consumption, we hereby promote the pledge to abstain from illegal drug and alcohol consumption, and do hereby proclaim the week of October 23rd through the 31st, 2020 as Red Ribbon Week in the City of Espanola. I'd like to really bring recognition to the fact that, in particular during times of COVID, there are many young folks out there who are relenting to the pressure of the stress that COVID has brought. And in addition to the regular stresses that they feel at that age and at every age, it grows increasingly difficult to handle that. And we want to make sure that we reach out to as many of our youth as possible and lend that helping hand to make sure that there are coping mechanisms that are available other than illegal alcohol and drug use. So on behalf of the city, we'd like to proclaim Red Ribbon Week and wish it the most success possible. Next, we are going to recognize we have a Missing Persons Awareness Day proclamation. Mr. Leonard Aguilar, also known as James, reached out because of a very personal situation that we'd like to recognize and show solidarity with. And I'd like to defer the floor to James, if he has a second, to perhaps give us a little bit of insight regarding this very specific and important proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor Sanchez, and honored members of the City Council. It's an honor to be present amongst you all. in this quorum. First off, I just want to mention that the missing persons pandemic that has been very prominent throughout the nation and in New Mexico. My brother Mark Daniel Aguilar went missing from Santa Fe, New Mexico on September 4th, 2016. And it's been a very, very difficult time for my family and I, and to have experienced other families throughout the state of New Mexico that have missing individuals in their families. It's been a very long journey since September 4th of 2016. And what my experience and my ordeal is that there was not a mechanism that related to missing adults, whether male or female or anything of that nature. So it was my call to have had this experience come to light, and I approached our freshman, then our Representative Joseph Sanchez, with this issue that I had found with the law enforcement agencies throughout the state of New Mexico that needed probably some type of reform in policy and procedures. And so therefore, Representative Sanchez made it his priority bill during the 2019 legislative session. What that consisted of was that it was relating to missing individuals, adults. And what we were able to accomplish in the legislative session is that in a 30-day period, the New Mexico Department of Public Safety shares information such as all of their DNA records, dental records, DNA to the National Missing and Unidentified Person System, which is under the Department of Justice and the National Institute of Justice. And during a 30-day period, the information that has been established by the law enforcement agencies, the investigative agencies, is sent over to the New Mexico Missing Persons Clearinghouse, which is the New Mexico Department of Public Safety. And if there hasn't been any information or tips, or the individual has not been found within 30 days, that information is shared immediately on the 30th day of the 30-day period to the National Missing and Unidentified Person System. This bill, which was House Bill 16 during the legislative session of 2019, was named in the namesake of my brother, the Mark Daniel Aguilar Information Sharing Requirement. And what that consisted of was not an emphasis on just Native American males. It was in collaboration of all individuals, Hispanic, white, African American, Asian. There was no barriers or discriminatory sanctions or anything like that towards an individual. In my view, is that a missing person is a missing person, whether a male or female. And there's a lot of stereotypes out there because of the missing and murdered Indigenous women that has been ongoing, but it's been a very long road for male individuals, especially Native adults, because there isn't an alert for a missing adult, as there is an Amber Alert for a child, as well as a Silver Alert for anybody over the age of 65. So in conjunction with the Mark Daniel Aguilar Information Sharing Requirement, I have been working with United States Senator Mark Warner from Virginia in establishing the Ashanti Alert Act here in New Mexico. And that has been passed successfully. And therefore, I do believe that there is an endorsement letter that has been sent to Governor Lujan Michelle Grisham that has been appropriated funding for a mechanism that would alert via law enforcement agencies through just as a Amber Alert or Silver Alert. But this alert would be primarily for an adult of the age of 18 to 64. So that has been an accomplishment that has been ongoing for the past 2 years. Currently, right now, we have at least 202 missing individuals in the state of New Mexico that are housed at the New Mexico Department of Public Safety, the Missing Persons Clearinghouse, some that have already been transferred over to the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, which is housed at the University of North Texas and Fort Worth. This bill, this effort, and this new law that has been passed has been very successful in 7 other states that has found unidentified individuals in their states, respectively. So I do believe that New Mexico will uncover some unidentified individuals and bring them home and identify them, as well as bring some of our missing individuals home. This is something that is very silent and doesn't get very much recognition. So I've been working collaboratively with legislators throughout the state of New Mexico to shed some light on the missing persons epidemic here in New Mexico and across the nation. So there was a proclamation that was established by Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, which was October 18th. And Mayor Sanchez graciously accepted my proposed endeavor that I had, this intent that I had, and was able to accommodate perhaps in this manner. And I'm very honored to have be before you and present to you my intent for missing and unidentified persons here in the state of New Mexico, and i.e. in the city of Espanola and surrounding communities. So I thank every one of you, councilors and Mayor Sanchez, for allowing me this opportunity. Thank you.
Mr. Aguilar, thank you very much for the presentation and for bringing that piece of information to us that's, sometimes goes under the radar. And I'm sure that's why you're bringing that awareness to us. So if you will, we have a proclamation of the city of Espanola, New Mexico. Whereas there are many causes for concern when it comes to the safety and well-being of our friends and families, one that no one ever hopes to endure is the suffering and grief of a missing loved one. And whereas approximately 2,300 Americans are reported missing on a daily basis, with approximately 600,000 every year, and whereas families who experience a missing persons case are forever changed and are left to endure an unprecedented amount of spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional pain due to the uncertainty of the fate and well-being of a loved one. And whereas the city of Espanola would like to bring awareness in hopes that it will provide an opportunity for others to learn, as it does not discriminate and affects people of every gender, age, race, religion, social, and cultural background. And whereas the city of Espanola would like to express to any of those who may be subject to a missing persons case to never give up hope and to maintain their faith even in the darkest of moments. Now, therefore, I, Javier E. Sanchez, along with the council, do hereby proclaim October 27th, 2020 as Missing Persons Awareness Day in the city of Espanola, New Mexico, USA. Thank you very much for that. And we'll now continue with the agenda. We have matters from the city manager. If you will, sir, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body. This evening, we have a couple of items for your approval. Before that, I just want to say really one quick thing, Honorable Mayor. If any issues that the governing body has that you would like for me to address, I know that some of you reach out to me via phone call and I take it, or a text or email. That's great. Please keep in mind that if you call me and we have a conversation, you might have to remind me again. So a lot of times if you send me a text, I like to follow up with that, or something in writing with an email. But I do have I listen and take down your concerns. Justin Salazar Torres, I will get you that email in response to the Godfrey Lane. Councilor Manny Martinez, in regards to the Halloween, as far as the city, right now the Department of Health has deemed trick-or-treating normally what it is as a high-risk event. So it's considered discouraged to do that. But I know that the city of Espanola is doing an event this Friday night where we hand out the candy to the vehicles. The individuals do not offload off the vehicle, just like what we're doing with the takeout meals right now. I believe the county is doing the similar event on Saturday evening with high regards to social distancing, wearing proper protective gear and sanitization to distribute the candy. So, but to answer your question, Councilor Manny Martinez, right now the Department of Health and the state deems that regular trick-or-treating as a high-risk event, so it's discouraged. That's why we didn't really mention anything in regards to the city as to how people would proceed. You know, normally would say yes, no, but to keep that in line, that it is considered a high-risk event for anybody that's interested in doing that this weekend. Also with the Valley Estates traffic control, I will follow up with Public Works and Public Safety as well. And then Councilor Manny Martinez, in regards to that billboard that we spoke about a few days ago off of Paseo de Oñate, crossing over westbound over Paseo de Oñate, I believe that's a Santa Clara property. That billboard belongs to them, so we'd have to get permission from them to utilize that billboard. With that said, thank you, governing body, and we'll proceed. Before you on letter D under Roman numeral number 9 is approval of the holiday closure schedule.
City Manager Javier Martinez, this is Javier Sanchez. I just wanted to, before we move on, we had a question from Councilor John Ramon Vigil. I'm assuming it may have had something to do with what you were speaking about earlier. Councilor John Ramon Vigil, you have the floor.
I apologize.
It's just a general question for City Manager. Mr. Martinez, have we discussed a plan, and I'd like this publicly to be discussed on the radio and out, what we're going to do to remediate the dumping at the Prince and Carter ranches as we clean out the V-Hill property adjacent to the Lucero Center. I know that's caused a lot of issues for the residents there on North Prince Drive.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, Councilor John Ramon Vigil. So right now we've scheduled a meeting with several department heads to come up with a plan of action to proceed on cleaning that property. As I mentioned, I was reached out by the Department of NMED and the Solid Waste Authority or Bureau in regard to some complaints that they've been getting as well from the neighboring community around that property. So this Thursday, myself and other department heads are gonna sit down and meet and come up with a plan of action and how we're gonna proceed in cleaning that area.
Thank you,
Mr. Martinez. You can continue.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. So as I said on Roman numeral number 9, under item or letter D, is approval of the holiday schedule, closure schedule that is presented before you every year to the tail end of the year. I put it before the governing body for your approval. I stand to any questions.
For purpose of discussion, Mayor, I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez with the motion and a second from Councilor Manny Martinez. Councilor Peggy Sue, did you have any questions?
Just clarification so the public understands what's going on. We normally have Christmas Day on the regular 10 days that we afford the staff. So the 28th and 29th will be considered administrative days. And then the 30th and 31st would be considered vacation days. So those are days that the staff will have to take off of their time, correct?
That's correct, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez.
So we'll be returning back to work on January the 4th?
That is correct, ma'am. January 4th would be the return date, normal work schedule.
And how do we handle public safety entities, being that they're on a different schedule? Could you explain that, please?
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez. So this schedule is primarily for administrative staff only that follow the 8 to 5 Monday through Friday schedule. This does not include our first responders that unfortunately have to be diligent in their work throughout holidays, different shifts, weekends, holidays, 24/7 operation.
So do they get time added to their schedule for later to take off at a later date, or how is this going to work?
Oh, yes, Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez. So they will be allowed to carry those 2 administrative leave days given to administrative staff for them to use at a later date, and they have to be used before February 26th of 2021.
So understanding you correctly, Mr. Martinez, the 2 administrative leave days are paid for by the city or paid for by the employee?
Those are paid for by the city, a total of 8 hours per day.
And then the vacation is on the employee themselves on the 30th and the 31st?
That is correct, ma'am.
Okay, you've answered my questions. Thank you, sir.
Do we have any other questions?
Follow up, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
Do we have any employees that do not have the vacation time?
Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez. So there is a writing on this forum that any new employees or temp employees that do not accrue this benefit will be allotted the administrative leave 2 days, and then we will accept vacation donations for the other 2 vacation days if the employee does not have the leave to fulfill that, so they can complete their paycheck.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Appreciate the information.
Do we have any other questions or comments from councilors? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor from Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez with a second from Councilor Manny Martinez. Can we take a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor.
Counselor John L. Ritchie, Counselor Dorothy Didi Valdez,
In favor of the motion?
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
In favor.
Counselor John Ramon Vigil,
No, I'm really glad we do this for Christmas in our community. I'm in favor of the motion.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
In favor of the motion?
Counselor Denise D. Benavides,
In favor of the motion?
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar,
For the motion.
Counselor John L. Ritchie.
I was already asked, but in favor again.
Motion carries.
Sorry, thank you very much. Councilor John Ritchie, it's because you were muted. We didn't hear you the first time. Our apologies. So continue, City Manager.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body. On to the next item is the approval for Resolution 2020-39, the 2021 calendar year schedule. So this is where we show the holidays that the city will recognize for the upcoming year. With that said, I stand for any questions.
For discussion, motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilor John Ritchie and a second from Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez. Councilor Ritchie, go ahead.
No questions, bringing it up.
Teeing it up for the rest. Any other questions or comments from councilors?
This is the list that has been approved for years, correct, Mayor?
That's correct.
Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez, just to clarify, so this follows with the city's personnel policy as well in the recognized holidays that we recognize, of course. And if you you notice, this year we'll be recognizing New Year's twice in 1 year.
Oh, yeah. So there's actually 12 days. Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go to a roll call vote with a motion for approval from Councillor Ritchie with a second from Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez. Thank you very much for that roll call vote.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor of the motion.
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor of the motion?
Counselor Dorothy Didi Valdez,
In favor.
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar,
For the motion.
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
In favor.
Counselor John Ramon Vihil,
In favor of the motion.
Counselor Emmanuel J. Martinez, Counselor Denise D. Benavides,
In favor.
and Counselor Emmanuel J. Martinez.
In favor of the motion?
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Anything else?
No, Mayor, that concludes my update from matters from the city manager. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. We now have business with visitors. We have an update on the NCRTD maintenance facility presented by NCRTD Executive Director, Mr. Anthony Martellaro. I apologize for mutilating the pronunciation of the last name.
Thank you, Mayor and members of City Council, for having me attend your meeting and present on our new maintenance facility. I'll ask the clerk to go to the next page on this. One of the main attributes of the new facility and that we asked the designers to undertake is incorporate sustainable design in the facility. So they have, in fact, included elements related to solar, water, conservation energy, materials and resources, and environmental quality. And on the next page, I'll highlight some of those items that are included in this new facility. Basically, it will be a passive solar design, and it'll be using windows that are facing east and west on the repair base and in the administration area. The building will not use photovoltaic panels at this point in time, but it's being designed so that those can be included in the future. It is designed to utilize and capture rain and snow melt and utilize it and recycle that water into our planned areas. There will be a bus wash facility on the site, and it is being designed so that it will again recycle water and reuse about 90% of the rinse cycle on every wash cycle. The exterior lighting of the facility is being shielded so that we don't get light pollution in the area during the night. It'll be dark sky compliant. Our concrete paving will be a light concrete so that it does not create a heat island effect. And the same thing with the roofing material will be a white colored membrane, again, to reduce demand on cooling of the facility. A lot of the products that will be utilized in the facility, such as aluminum, ceramic tile, carpet, most of those will be made from recycled materials to the extent that we can find those materials. The facility does have to comply with Buy America standards with the Federal Transit Administration. So to the extent that we can locate those materials, we will be utilizing a lot of recycled product. And a majority of the wall construction will be concrete block. And the materials are from, we hope that the contractor sources those in close proximity to Espanola, so it reduces transportation impacts on the environment as well as benefiting the local economy here. These are just some highlights of the environmental sustainability elements in the facility. There's many more, and I didn't want to list them all at this point in time. This is a site layout. You can see where our existing administration building is to the west of the site, and then the new maintenance facility is sort of located there in the center of the property, along with fueling bays, as well as the wash bays. There also will be electrical charging stations located on the site, since we'll be soon migrating some of our fleet to electric buses. And there will also be a propane fueling facility on the site, since some of our vehicles will also be utilizing propane as well. To the north of the site, you'll be able to see the future park and ride facility that's along Silky Way Road. That facility is not being built as part of this project, but is a future project that we're contemplating, and once we get the funding for it, we'll undertake that. And hopefully by the time that we undertake that project, we will have jointly been successful in finding funding to extend Silky Way Road / Blue Bus Way towards the east of the property line there. The next slide, please. This is an interior layout of the building. There's 5 maintenance bays in this facility. There's obviously some administrative areas, and then there's some work areas for the inventory storage, as well as supplies and what have you. My screen went away. Okay, there it is. I'm sorry. Okay, so that is the interior layout of the facility. Next slide, please. These are some elevations. As I indicated, there are skylights on this building, so that we can induce as much natural light and reduce the need for artificial lighting. The maintenance garage doors also are windows type doors, so that again more natural light can enter the facility. And this shows you both an east and a west elevation of the building. The next slide. The next slide shows you a north elevation and a southern elevation. And then there's elevations related to the bus wash facility as well. Next slide. And this is an illustration of what the facility will look like. I think it's quite handsome for a maintenance facility. Incorporates our iconic blue bus colors in it as well. But it will be landscaped. There will be a concrete wall along one side of the facility. Planning asks that we incorporate that into the design so that we can mitigate any impact on the residential areas that are to the south there. And then the rest of the site will be ornamental security fencing around the facility. And next slide. And just some general statistics. The facility occupies a 7-acre site. The 3 buildings in total approximate 21,000 square feet. The cost for the facility is $10.2 million. 80% of that is federal money. The balance of that is some state outlay, capital outlay money, and the district's GRT resources. It's expected to have a one-time GRT generation of approximately $820,000. And obviously a portion of that goes to the state, and a good portion of that will go to the city of Espanola, where the project is being conducted. And we anticipate staffing the facility with about 10 new employees with an average salary and benefits of $60,000 per year. And we'll be hiring a fleet maintenance supervisor, 4 fleet technicians, inventory parts coordinator, and 3 service workers. That'll take our employee staffing for the NCRTD to 93 employees here in the Espanola and Taos area. And obviously there'll be utility revenue that will accrue to the city for water and sewer, and obviously electric and gas will go to other entities. So that's a quick summary of the facility, Mayor and council members, and I'd be glad to stand for any questions you may have about the information I presented.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Do we have any questions or comments from any councilors?
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Tony. I'm curious about a timeline. Could you give us a timeline as when construction begins and when's the estimated completion time for this job?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. In fact, I had it on my slide and I totally missed it. So currently we're in the process of bidding it, and bids are anticipated to be due by the middle of November. We will then take it to our board for award of the construction bid at their December 4th board meeting. And then it'll take about 30 to 45 days for the contractor to mobilize, and they'll start construction around February of 2021. And it's a 12-month construction project, and it is anticipated to be completed by March of 2022.
Thank you. Also, interesting that it's going to add 10 new employees. That's very interesting. So we also thank you for that, for the economic development push for our community, and also for the GRTs. One other question that I have is, I don't know if it's possible that whoever is the contractor utilize North Central Waste Authority for construction debris. I get very concerned when I see construction debris being handled outside of our community when we have an investment in that entity here in Espanola. So I'm hopeful that they utilize our solid waste systems. Thank you.
Yes, and I'll make sure to mention that to them, because that, that's part of the reducing the impact on the environment, and using local entities so that these vehicles or supplies aren't being trucked, from Santa Fe or further out.
Right, and we certainly appreciate you and all your foresight and all the planning that has gone into this situation, your board and all the staff members, for all their hard work and their commitment and what this does for the city of Espanola. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Denise Benavides, thank you very much for putting your video on. That makes it very helpful. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. No questions, just a comment. It looks like an absolutely beautiful facility. I'm happy that we have this type of facility coming to Espanola. One of the things, Mayor, that I know we're a ways away, but I think that it's something that we need to feature. We don't do a great job of featuring new buildings, new businesses that come into Espanola. And I think that with Anthony's permission, a nice groundbreaking ceremony, get not just the local paper, but, even the New Mexican, the Journal, others out here to see exactly what's happening in Espanola and just feature and give some kudos for the things that happen in our city. I think we need to start doing a little bit more of that. Thank you.
Very good point. Thank you very much, Counselor. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. We appreciate you reaching out to us and coming before us today. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I'm sorry, we have one last comment or question from Counselor Manny Martinez. I didn't see your hand there. Go ahead.
That's okay. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to echo, thank you guys. Thank you for this. Does look like a fantastic facility that you are making, and thank you again for the investment that you're making into our city. And I know that there's many people that utilize your services, so I do thank you so much for that. It's clear to see how much you've invested, and again, 10 more jobs into our area. So thank you again so much for that. And I look forward to, as you're expanding, to see more happening there. Again, like you were stating with the park and ride in your area as well. So thank you again so much for that investment, sir.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Anybody else? Excellent. Well, thanks again, and we appreciate the update.
Good night. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, so we'll now go to items proposed for Finance Board discussion items, action items. We have, first of all, the discussion of proposed plan for the wellness and training facility for police and first responders. Who do we have with us?
Mayor, I'm going to go ahead and give the discussion on this topic tonight. Unfortunately, Chief Jimenez could not be with us tonight, so he asked me to go ahead and just give the overview. I don't know if everybody has had a chance to look at the business plan. And, if you have any questions, just let me know as we go. I know that the chief wanted me to mention that he does have a third party trying to appraise the equipment currently, although that appraisal has not come in yet. He also has pricing for the swipe key entry, and he's awaiting that as well. I do know that Chief and City Manager, that's Human Resources, did have a conference call with the insurance company to ask questions that they had and voice concerns. And so I just want to reach out to City Manager to kind of just give us an update on that call. And then right after that, I'll proceed.
Thank you, Councilor Benavides, Honorable Mayor, the rest of the members of the governing body. Yes, as Councilor Benavides did mention, myself, HR Director, Ms. Sally Baxter, had a meeting with our insurance travelers to see about what the liability would be to absorb this facility for our use. Normally what the insurance said, if it was going to be for our use and our use only, meaning our first responders, our PD and fire and city employees, that would not be an issue. The increase in our premiums would go up very little. They mentioned right around maybe about $300 a year, if that. Where we would come into liability is if we would open it up for the public. Now that would be into a fitness type of business as well. So, but that's not the case that we're going for right now. We're primarily focusing on for our first responders and city employees. So our insurance company had no issues with this. They were very appreciative that we had them involved in pre-discussion on this. They did mention that a lot of times other insurees relay information 6 months later and asking for their insight on this, but they were very appreciative that we reached out to them prior to this, and that we had him very involved on this as well. So.
Thank you, City Manager. I just also want to mention that we've got Gino Brazil also with us, in case, Gino, that you'd like to chime in, or if anybody has any questions for Gino. I know that the facility, it's a large facility. It's got office space on the top, and of course the workout facility on the bottom. And then there are rooms for class type facility if, you know, that was chosen. The primary purpose currently that Chief Jimenez would like to see the facility be a training type facility. I know that they just had, or they are having a class or had one recently. He did give us a list of the types of classes and the revenue that he proposed would come into the city. Initially, there was talk about that it would also be used not only as a training facility, but a workout facility for all public safety type individuals, which would be police department, sheriffs, fire, state police, and that, you know, they may be charged a small fee to enter the facility. There's other potential that we would like to in the future discuss that we think can generate additional revenue for the city. Right now, that's not the plan. However, what we have talked about with Gino is that maybe the possibility to lease would be out there, and Gino has generously offered a discounted lease. Also, he offered a huge discount to purchase the equipment if the city so chose to do that. And whatever questions each of you may have, let me know and I'll do my best without Chief to answer those.
Thank you very much. So do we have any councillor comments?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Ritchie.
Since this is a proposal, possibly a permanent, but I recommend that we do this on a temporary with the option of leasing the equipment, because I'm sure Mr. Brazil would like to come back in business if once this COVID is over, and bring back his business. So that would be a recommendation. I don't know where we go from here.
Thank you, Councilor Ritchie, for that. That was my first question to Gino when Chief first asked me to assist them with this project. And I did ask Gino if his intent was to come back or if he was looking to retire. And he did indicate, and I think he's still on the line with us, that his indication was actually to retire, but he wanted the facility to stay open, whether it be the city to, you know, purchase it or, you know, somebody at a later date. We did talk about a short-term lease, and that's definitely an option. We did talk about some monthly fee to lease, and that was also a very generous lease that Gino proposed. So there's definitely different things that we could do if the city chose not to purchase the equipment at this time and maybe lease it for short term until a buyer could be found, or until the city decided that they would like to go forward and purchase it and utilize it for other things other than just a training facility. Chief Jimenez thought that, you know, it could be also used for the public to give instruction to them and self-defense courses and several other ideas that he had. So definitely a lease, whether short-term or long-term, is definitely a possibility.
Councilor Benavides?
Yes, Councilor.
I just wanted to confirm. So we're talking about the purchase of the equipment, correct? Because last I know, we owned the building that Gino's gym is in.
Correct.
Okay, correct?
Correct. And so what Gino has done, Gino just estimated what he thought the cost would be to purchase the equipment at a discounted rate. So he would discount the equipment, and I'm not sure if Gino's still on the line, of up to 40% of what he thought it was worth. Once we have the appraisal back, we'll know exactly what the cost of the equipment, or not the cost, but the appraised value of the equipment would be. And so, that'll be helpful to us. I don't see Gino on. Gino, if you're on.
Yes, can you hear me? I am on the line.
Can you talk a little bit, Gino, to us about some of what you proposed as far as purchasing the equipment and cost, and also renting the equipment? Because Gino does still lease from the city the building, and so we'd have to either come up with a lease, either to get rid of Gino's lease, or not get rid of, but do something with Gino's lease and then the city lease back, or we'd have to, that's what the portion of the discussion for tonight is.
So real quick, so I'm a little confused. We're trying to then sublease what we already leased to a tenant.
If the city so chose to do that, I really don't recommend that. And
I was going to say, I think we should just terminate the lease.
Correct. And that is what the discussion purpose of tonight's agenda item is. So I think Chief's hope for tonight was that we could have the discussion, and I think his hope was to purchase the equipment so that then it would be available for all his trainings and for the workout facility. And again, there's offices on the top floor. I think a couple of those that could be utilized also for something. So yeah, we really don't want to sublease. I think it muddies the waters a little bit.
Follow up, Councilor Benavides.
Absolutely.
Go ahead for a quick follow up, and then we'll go to Councilor Justin Salazar Torres.
So I just have concern about us using this. The whole purpose of the industrial park has been completely lost. That the building that we use now for the police department, the municipal court, was originally purchased, and they were going to have Fleur Daniels there. And here we are continuing to not look at the bigger picture and development for that area. And it's industrial park's whole purpose has been lost, and we're instead moving in a direction where it's just become a large government building megaplex up there. You have county offices, you have the health commons, you have all the police department, municipal court. Now you're going to have this large public safety, physical fitness center. The industrial park had a purpose and a vision, and the city isn't doing its part to continue that vision and mission. And one of the things when they worked with the Bartholomew Sanchez land grant to get that land and work with them was the purpose of industrial park, to bring jobs, industrial growth into our community. And we as a municipality are failing to do any of that effort to bring that sort of development here to this town. I know in the comprehensive plan, one of the things that's been discussed is focusing on that Northwest corridor and the Gateway project, the Northwest Gateway. So I just want to know, what is our ultimate vision and goal for Industrial Park Road? I mean, if we go this route, it seems like we're not following through with the intended purpose of Industrial Park Road. And pretty much you only have non-bay mills up there. And I just wanted to see what you had to say about that, Councilor Benavides.
Well, for me, Councilor, when I asked to join, when they asked for my assistance on the project, it was to assist with the business plan and for a vision that the chief had, because the PD was already up there. And so I'm not completely familiar with what originally Industrial Park Road was to be used for. I know that there's been talk also about some housing up in that area. And, if that wasn't the intended purpose, that's also another discussion that we need to have. But for me, for tonight, I think that any type of economic development and jobs that we can bring to the community is definitely beneficial. I think that because the gym had already been up there and had been up there for the amount of time that it's been up there, I think that, Gino's definite goal was to see it continue and to stay in our community when he reached out to me. So, from that perspective, I think that I don't know if Gino or Chief reached out, who reached out to who, but I think that, you know, they thought that it would be a great idea since the PD was already up there. So.
Thank you, Councilor. We'll now go down to Councilor Justin Salazar Torres, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Benavides. I appreciate your time and effort for this. Quick question for you. I have yet, granted my emails are kind of messed up. I see emails that are coming through on my tablet, but they're not coming through on my phone. So I have yet to see emails regarding the question I had regarding our health insurance. And I know that health insurers tend to give some sort of benefit for gym memberships, and wanted to see if we've looked into that. That way, should there be any concerns regarding payment for the equipment, et cetera. You know, granted, this is just for the equipment. So, you know, equipment again can be moved should we purchase it. You know, the building and the facilities, I understand everybody's concern on what industrial park was meant for. But I think the equipment can be moved should we choose so. But just questions regarding the health insurance.
And I'll defer to city manager for that. I don't know if there was discussion with the insurance company as far as, I think your question was regarding, would it pay for a portion of a membership fee? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. City manager, was there any type of discussion with the insurance company as to them picking up a portion of, or if we could incorporate that fee that someone would pay to join the facility?
Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, Councilor Denise Benavides, Councilor Justin Salazar Torres. I believe there was some email thread conversation between Chief Jimenez and our HR director, Sally Baxter, in regards to this. I don't believe that there was any benefit in regards to that. I know that one of our health providers, Blue Cross Blue Shield, does provide, if you'd like to join a membership, an example with Anytime Fitness, and I believe that with Gino's Gym as well, where they would cover a portion of the cost. But with this, it's totally different because we don't have it even with our wellness center or our center here at the Lucero Center with our gym. We don't offer that as well. So I don't think that would be a part of that in getting the insurance to pay a portion of it.
Okay, thank you. I do also want to bring that up. I know that during the Public Safety Committee meeting that I attended, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez did have concerns that we already have Lucero Center, and it's the type of facility that is also a workout facility. So that's also something that, you know, we may want to discuss tonight as well. Although, like Councilor mentioned, you know, the equipment, if purchased, could get moved and utilized there as well. I think the vision that Chief had was to utilize it as a training facility because they do quite a few trainings currently. And, you know, he felt like it would provide a source of revenue for the city. And instead of now outsourcing it, he thought that keeping it local and next to the PD would be something that would be beneficial. So, but I know that Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez did have the concern about Lucero Center. So that's something that we want to probably discuss as well tonight, just kind of hit on that topic.
Very good. Do we have questions from councilors specifically regarding that particular issue?
Hi, Honorable Mayor, this is Councilor Valdez, and I do have a couple of questions.
Yes, Councilor Valdez, thank you very much. And I apologize, you had your hand up and I was supposed to go right to you. My apologies. Go ahead.
That's okay. Well, I think the first one has been answered about the Lucero Center, since we already have that location and I know it's not being utilized now with the COVID-19 epidemic. So my question is, because we are in the epidemic, would we or the officers be able to work out there? I'm assuming that the facility is big enough for social distancing. And my second concern is, we've been talking a lot about training. So my question is, are these trainings, I think there was about 14 on the agenda, are they required to keep our police officers certified? Or are we offering these trainings to other entities, and I don't understand why we would do that. We, if they're needed for our own officers for certification, then I totally agree with providing those certifications or trainings, but I guess I need some understanding or clarification on why offer all those trainings if they are not needed.
That question, I'm so sorry I can't ask, and Chief unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight. I do think some
Mayor.
of them may be required. The others, I believe, he looking at for a source of revenue.
Councillor
Hello,
John Ritchie
Mayor?
wanted to perhaps answer that question. Go ahead, Councillor Ritchie.
Yes, the chief is a certified trainer, and he has already provided training to other entities, including the state, counties, and other municipalities. And he has generated, if I'm not mistaken, I think last year he generated close to 100,000 in revenue. Our previous discussion, he gave me detail regarding that. So it is not only for the convenience of our officers, but it is also a revenue generator for the department and for the city.
Okay, thank you so much.
So I
Question,
understand the lively, oh, sure, I'll go to you after I just make a quick.
No,
comment.
I'll yield to you, sir. Go ahead. Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Councillor. Just really quickly, it seems like we could have had a lot of these answers, perhaps, or questions answered. I know Chief is taking care of something important. But he couldn't make it. Maybe we could have a discussion at a point where he's present to answer those. I know that he's done that at public safety and at finance. So I was hoping for perhaps a little bit more cohesive discussion, but since we don't seem to have all of those questions answered, maybe we can do that at a later date. My apologies, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez, go ahead.
I'm interested in furthering the discussion because it does feel like we're all over the place on this issue and not getting a whole lot of real answers. Question I have is the $100,000 that Councilor Ritchie is discussing that the chief brought into the city of Espanola. Where did that money go? Did that go into a general fund or did that go back into the police department? And I'll yield that question for either finance, Jessica, or city manager.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the governing body. So the total of 100,000 was amongst the several MOUs that we had, in particularly with the Lowe's Fund, the MOU with the schools, and then we did have some training. The only portion that went into the general fund was the training portion, which was about 15 to 20K. Other than that, the Lowe's and the MOU with the schools is tracked in a separate fund, which is Fund 109.
The reason I ask is because that money from the schools has always gone back into the general fund. And the reason for that is because the taxpayer is the people that are responsible for providing that ability to conduct that contract. So the taxpayer should be paid back for their investment via that money coming back into the general fund, and then the governing body deciding at that point where that money best serves their constituency. So I have a problem with the way this is being handled in general. I do have a very big issue with these fundings going back into the police department. I'm very concerned about this. I have no issue if that's what we decide from the beginning, but we've never even discussed this. So I'm very concerned about this. And
Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, Councilor Peggy Sue, for clarification purposes, We track this in a separate fund, so we know exactly how much we are expending on each of these activities. Basically, in these funds, as you would see, the revenue that we bring in is basically covering the cost. There is no additional money at this point because the time that we do charge is overtime costs. So we pretty much, like I said, break even on that. There was maybe about, so now that we're doing the MOU with the New Mexico State Police for $20,000, that was requested to be set aside for specific equipment needed for the fire department. But other than that, the only funds that go into the general fund are for training purposes, which cover the costs. And then the other two for the MOU for the school and the Lowe's, those are tracked separately so we can keep track of how much we are expending. Because if we put all this into the general fund, there's no way to keep track of, okay, how much did we spend on the schools? How much did we spend on Lowe's? And how much was truly dedicated to overtime for the police department? So therefore, the reason for the tracking purposes.
Jessica, so question, on the overtime costs at Lowe's, we bill them according to the hourly rate of the officer that was out there at that specific time, depending on how much he's making on overtime? I mean, per hour?
Councilor Peggy Sue, members of the governing body, I believe it is at a $50 rate, which is the rate to cover the fully loaded cost for our highest paid individual that is working the shift.
ISP. So that's the $50 cost is per hour then, and that you're billing at that highest hour according to the highest paid officer that would go out there, right?
That is correct.
Okay, it helps me to understand this a little bit better. Thank you.
This is Gino. May I have the opportunity to speak for a few minutes?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Honorable Mayor and governing body, just let me try to clear up a couple of things. First of all, back in May, I had an initial conversation with City Manager Martinez, and at that point I expressed that I would no longer be able to operate the gym due to the pandemic, both financially and operationally. I just couldn't do it. I expressed to City Manager Martinez at that time that my number one wish, my greatest wish, was to see the gym equipment stay there. At that point, back in June, I could have started auctioning off equipment, selling equipment, and I hesitated because the reason, the main reason or reasons I wanted to see the equipment stay there to benefit this community. The city has been extremely helpful to me through the years. I've appreciated greatly. Councilor Ramon earlier said that building was supposed to be an incubator for businesses. I was the only one that took the risk of going up there as far as small businesses back in 1997. Flor Daniel was there and they left. They closed. They were there with about 10 people in that whole building. So for 20 years, 22 years, I was there. It's very difficult for business to be in that area. Now, what evolved was this conversation with city manager, and I made the effort to him and said, would the city be interested? And city manager said, Gina, we have some difficulties with financing, with budgets, we'd have to staff people up here. So he was very hesitant, which I could see. So then we had an initial conversation with Chief Jimenez, and that's how this other idea started. Now, I personally would work any way possible as far as making the equipment available to stay there. Now, let me make one thing clear here as far as that little lease agreement that caused some confusion. What I threw out there was the idea that I would continue paying the rent that I'm currently paying, and the city wouldn't have to sublease. All they would do is lease the equipment for less than what I was paying on rent. And so what that would do would avoid any conflict of interest or anybody saying anything. So it was minimal. So I just want to clear that up. If there's any questions, you can ask more about that. Now, also to address the question, the chief, large cities have these kinds of centers where you have a police department right next to a training facility where they can offer workshops, they can do their own training for their officers, physical training. The list of workshops that you saw provided by Chief Jimenez, I believe he did not mean to say we'd have all these workshops in 1 year. Obviously, that's not doable. But even if he had, say, a gun safety workshop, a self-defense workshop, you would attract officers from all over the state potentially, from potentially the Southwest. I mean, there's a lot of upside to this. There really is. And, it's not just the training for public safety, but it's the local city of Espanola employees using the facility. And it's also what I would hope and envision is classes for your constituents and fellow community members, like first aid, self-defense, nutrition, diabetes workshops, and so on. That facility was designed as a gym. There's about, I would just approximate as $100,000 plus of equipment in there. As Councilor Denise Benavides mentioned earlier, I would work with the city to get that number down as low as possible. That's fair to both the city and me. So I'm open to outright purchase of the equipment. I'm open to a lease to own on a short-term basis or a lease to own on a long-term basis. So again, if this doesn't work out and I could just sell the equipment and get out, but it would be a loss to the community. I've been a gym owner in this city for 36 years. And that's part of why I want to see the gym stay there, at least the equipment. My days are pretty much over, but it would really be memorable to see this equipment stay and serve the community, even if it's on a small scale to start out with the officers, but it could grow. There's a lot of potential for growth here. So feel free to ask me any questions if you'd like.
Thank you, Gino. And I just want to mention also that Chief Jimenez is now on the line if anybody has questions for Chief.
Let's see. Councilor Justin Salazar Torres, did you want to go ahead with your question?
No, Honorable Mayor. Actually, I was going to ask that we just move this to our next city council meeting so individual councilors can ask Chief questions. But since he's on the line now, I think we're good to go. Thank you, sir.
Very good. Do we have any questions of the chief? If we have the opportunity, maybe Chief, you can just give a quick synopsis of what your vision was. I don't think we've gotten a clear idea, from anybody exactly what it is that we're discussing here. Go ahead.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the committee. I apologize for my tardiness. So this is what we're looking at is a wellness and training program. As you all may or may not know, all the officers who are certified and even officers that are doing reserved certification, they all are required and mandated by state law to have 40 hours annual training. It's got to be advanced training. So their basic police officer certification does not allow for those hours. So the officers have to get 40 hours of an additional training every year. Our department, since we've been here, we've been putting on classes, we've been saving money and also generating revenue by housing and hosting the classes ourselves. The revenue page that I put in there isn't necessarily the classes that we would be conducting in this facility. I just wanted to show the possible revenue generation that the police department can make along with the addition of this facility. Right now, we're currently putting on training. We just put on a training where we had 7 other agencies from all surrounding the Espanola Valley that partook and participated in this training. But it's bringing certified police officers, it's generating GRTs for fuel, food, lodging if they're from out of town. And it's also providing our officers in the city to be better trained to respond to our citizens in the community. So that also the wellness and training program, like Mr. Brazil just stated, is a lot of the police departments and even fire departments have a facility where they can go and train, they can work out, they can maintain their physical and mental health, fitness without having to share with the public, especially now with COVID. We don't have an option not to work out. So we have to continue working out. That is part of our regimen and our standards. So right now, I believe Lucero, you can only have 7 people total in there. Well, if the fire department goes in there on their crew, then they cannot work out. The other thing it keeps the first responders safe for the COVID. It also does not allow them, or it helps them from having to deal with, a call or an issue that they have over there. The officers are able to work out without having to feel like they're vulnerable to a situation. So this is why we're looking at this wellness center. So there's multiple different reasons that we're trying to do this. And the main thing was to also help out Mr. Brazil, who's been a part of the community and helped the community for so many years. The other thing is, I don't think that we're going to use that space for anything other than just renting out, probably storage. But if Mr. Brazil isn't going to be able to do this for very long, I don't know what we're going to do with that space. So it kind of didn't make sense to us to just leave it empty. So I hope I touched on and answered some questions. I'm open to field any other questions you all have.
Thank you, Chief.
Mayor.
Yes, is that Richie?
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead, sir.
Councilor Benavides, if you're working with the chief and spearheading this, my recommendation is that we take this to public safety and get something drafted up to bring to the next council. My recommendation is a 1-year lease on a bill or on the equipment, and see how this program can work for a year, and gives Gino an opportunity to see about selling the equipment and giving him a break for at least a year, and earning some kind of income on his equipment. That's my recommendation, and then we can move on this.
Honorable Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Councilor Salazar Torres.
Thank you, sir. So, Councilor Richie, this was obviously already brought before us. Our next step was to go ahead and just forward this to Finance Council. And I believe it went through Finance Council, if I'm not mistaken. But I think we're good to go with the recommendation from Finance Committee. So, Councilor Benavides, if you can chime in there for that.
It has not gone through finance as of yet. And I think the other discussion in public safety was that maybe a lease could be put together that could be presented to council. However, we wanted to have the discussion with council since that had not yet happened.
Yes.
Correct. So, but again, I mean, whether it be a lease or a purchase, I know that Chief is still waiting on the appraisal of the equipment. So, that should be in. I'm not sure when, Chief, but I know that you're awaiting it currently. So I think that, yes, there can be further discussion and maybe something more concrete and permanent be brought back to council. I know it's gone through review with the attorneys, but it has not yet gone through finance.
And just for clarification, Councilor, I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. I was just going to say that the reason that it's here today is because we are technically the Finance Committee. at today's meeting. So that's why it's now at finance. Councilor
Okay,
Salazar.
great. And so I'm okay, if my fellow committee members for public safety would like it to come back to public safety, I'm good with that. Personally, I don't see that it needs to come back to public safety. And since we've already discussed it as a whole, I think it just can be brought back to full council. But again, I'll leave that up to my fellow councilors on public safety.
Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Ritchie.
The reason, where would it, if we bring it out of this committee, this is strictly discussion, so it has to come out of a committee for approval to send back to council. So that's why my recommendation with my thought of giving a 1-year lease on the equipment and sending it to safety, which will be early next month, and we can then move it to the following council meeting to finally approve this and work with this.
So follow up on that, Mayor, if I may. So if we can say that it went to finance committee right now, so it can come back to us as a finance board again. Yeah, again, we forwarded from public safety onto finance because we wanted to make sure the finances were in order.
If I may, this is for discussion only, so we don't have to take any action. I'd like to leave it and let it rest until I decide how we bring it back and where we bring it back, what kind of a discussion we need to have. So if you allow me that opportunity to figure out where I think it goes best, I'd appreciate that. But we have a question from Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez. Go ahead.
No question, Mayor, I'm fine, thank you.
All right, so
I think that's a great
Councilor
idea,
Benavides?
Mayor. I think portion of the discussion tonight was mainly to see if the councilors felt that it would be better to purchase the equipment or to lease the equipment. That was one of the things I think that the hope was for tonight. So, but as you wish, Mayor, and also happy birthday to you, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Awesome. So we will go on to the next item, given that was for discussion only, and we will prepare the proper questions. That way we are much more suited to be able to answer that. So we'll now go on to letter H, which is the discussion of fire inspection fees preliminary to ordinance 2020-02. We have a presentation from Fire Chief Ron Padilla. We have a presentation from Sideshow Bob, apparently.
Okay, Mr. Mayor. I'm in the Halloween festivities today. Everybody seems so serious. Hi, Mr. Mayor, governing body. You guys aren't laughing. Okay. Today I have a discussion for fire inspection fees in the ordinance. We have some annual and commercial inspection fees. We have about 340 businesses in the city that we're going to start doing annual inspections for. The price of the fees are down below, and we've done it by square footage. I went to planning and zoning to see what the square footages were for these businesses, and I couldn't get a specific what was what as in square footage. So I've kind of ran some numbers. It will go anywhere from 17,000 a year to 102,000, depending on the square footage. My idea was that when they did inspection fees the first time at $50 a fee, that those fees went straight into the general fund. We're going to do inspection fees. We're going to do hazardous material fees, and then some false alarm fees. In 2019 on the false alarms, we had 133 false alarms in 2019, and as of this year, since January, we have 69. Most of all, those are coming from the same businesses or residents due to faulty alarms. So in the ordinance, it says that we would give out 2 false alarms, and then at that point, anywhere from 3 to 6, it would be $100. And plus 7 plus would be $200. This gets the homeowner or the resident or the business to start paying attention to maintaining their fire alarms and make sure that they're working right. That is a public safety. These businesses have to keep their customers safe while they're in their business. So with that being said, my vision within the fire department would be to have a chief, a deputy chief, and a fire marshal. And the fire marshal would do public education, as with the shifts, the duty shifts, as well as inspections, and working with planning and zoning with the DRT, and taking care of that on a daily basis. This would be an 8 to 5 person. I just couldn't figure out if we would have enough money with just the fees as in for a full-time position. That would have to come at a later date. With this ordinance happening, I would like for this money to come back towards the fire department due to our operational budget, most of it coming out of fire funds. Stand for any questions.
Thank you, sir. We have a question from Councilor Justin Salazar Torres.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief. I do know that this came before public safety as a discussion, but my only question is, it's not hyperlinked on the agenda. So I'm not sure if other councilors are confused as I am, but I don't see any numbers or what these fees would be. Wondering qué pasó ahí.
Yeah, I'm looking at our city clerk and we don't have anything. Mr. Padilla, did you provide that?
Apparently I did not.
Okay. I have a question for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
If we had a fire marshal, what would the requirements be? Are there testing requirements or training or otherwise?
Well, it would be, there is a inspection and arson investigation class in Socorro. They would have to take that. Of course, they would have to be a full certified firefighter. So that would actually help our ISO ratings as well. EMT basic, at least. They would have to have their fire 1 and 2, and then all their investigation and arson investigation and public education certifications. This would have 3, I guess, chiefs or admin people on duty 8 to 5 every day. If we do have a fire, those everything stops for us to go and assist and suit up and be able to fight fire with these guys. This would tremendously bring our numbers up for ISO to meet, at least start meeting the criteria to better our ISO. Our one of our lowest ratings for pointage in when we were inspected the last time was personnel. We're not meeting that standard. We only meet it the standard of having 4 people on a call within 4 minutes, another 4 people on a call within 4 minutes, 2.7% of the time. And that is a safety issue. But if we can start getting more people to respond and have more people on during the day as well, start padding our regular full-time employees, that's really going to help us out. If we can get this city down to a 3 and in an ISO, it would really help all our commercial insurances drop, I believe, by 18%.
Thank you very much for that. And just a second follow-up there. You mentioned that this position has to be fire certified, which means they help add a firefighter. And in addition, the income that we could be receiving from the testing, as well as the any fees that we charge for more than one alarm, all of those things would add up to approximately how much in terms of
Well,
revenue for the year?
I kind of took an average, and we're looking at 340 businesses. And then I took the average of the 3,000 square foot and 6,000 square foot, and the 6,000 square foot to 12,000 square foot, divided it by 2 to get an average number, which would be $51,000. If we went with the 12,000 square feet, it comes out to 102. So it's probably about half. But with the alarm fees and the $50, this is kind of a new avenue that we're going in. And I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start as in the yearly number wise.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much for bringing to, our attention that we've got both departments, fire
And
and police, trying to come up with some kind of revenue ideas. I appreciate that. We have a question from Councilor Justin Salazar Torres.
Thank you, Mayor. Not a question, but just a comment. Chief, thank you. I was scrolling through my little video here and, I didn't see you on the screen and I just scrolled and saw you. Jesus, my wife thinks I'm crazy for laughing at my computer.
Well, it's Halloween. I don't have hair, so I thought I'd try it out to see what it was. But, I'm bald. I was just trying to lighten up the mood, Counselor, Mr. Mayor.
I'm dying here.
Governing body. I
That looks
love
like
you
a
all.
fire hazard. That's a fire hazard waiting to happen.
It can be, but I watched it. I watched it.
All right, very good.
I
Do we have any other
I do
councilor questions?
apologize about not having this up on the hyperlink. I think this is kind of new to me. I know this is going to go up against for the governing body in I think the next council meeting, if I'm correct, Melissa.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, so I apologize for not getting that on there. But
All right.
excuse me, Mr. Mayor, members of the governing body, again, I would really like this to go to where it would be a restricted account and used specifically for the fire department.
All right, that's brings up a lot of good discussion items if that's potentially one of the directions that we want to go. Do we have any other councilor comments or questions? All right, seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Padilla. We'll move on.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate
Mayor, governing body.
Okay, so now we will go to the first quarter fiscal year 21 budget report. We have a presentation by Administrative Services Director, Ms. Jessica Ortiz.
Good evening, Mayor and Honorable Mayor and members of the governing body. Before you, we have the first quarter report ending September 30th, 2020. We are 25% of the year elapsed. And so starting off with our general fund, we have a year-to-date variance of $22,004 in comparison to last year. We had, sorry, my screen scrolled up. We had a variance of $269,124. This first quarter, we have had some major expenses in the general fund. Particularly, we had an increase in our non-employee insurance. So with Brown & Brown, that's our property coverage, our cybersecurity coverage, our police law enforcement coverage, our marine coverage. So all of that, there was an overall increase in the premium this year. We also recently started paying into the E911 fund for the services provided. And we also had an increase in claims, judgments, and settlements. So those are for any claims that are filed amongst the city through travelers. So like I said, we did have some major increases in expenses during the first quarter in the general fund. Looking at our water fund, we have a year-to-date variance of $131,967. In FY 19-20, the year-to-date variance then was $248,863. We just recently paid off our Vactor in the amount of $63,000. So that was the last payment that we paid now in July We also paid our audits. And of course, as I mentioned, our insurance increases. Looking down at our wastewater fund, we have year-to-date variance of sorry, my system is a little slow, of $9,681 in comparison to FY 19-20 of $66,210. We just recently purchased the Brown Bear, so our biannual payment of $32,000 just came out now in September. And then we also had a purchase to Yukon and Associates for the SCADA operator computer upgrade that was necessary for the wastewater treatment plant. Do we have any questions on the summary page?
Yes, Ms. Ortiz, I have a question for you. And I apologize if I happen to miss it. You mentioned revenues for the water fund were down $124,381 from the same month last year.
That is correct.
And did you talk about that at all?
Yes, so as I mentioned, we have the increased expenses. Revenue, as you can see, looking at our year-to-date revenues for FY 19 was $907,789. For FY 2021, it was $819,631, so a difference of about $90K. And I would say that this would be attributed to the pandemic. You know, a lot of people requesting payment extensions and stuff like that. And, you know, and us not disconnecting. So people, you know, having more money in their pocket to be able to get through the needs that they have.
Okay, have we done any further analysis or looked into whether or not we expect some of that revenue to actually hit, or whether we're going to have to write it off, and whether there are any other opportunities for recompensating for that?
So looking at our aging report, bottom line total for all services, which includes water, wastewater, and garbage, we are at a deficit of 1.7 million. 1.2 million of that is attributed to the period 6/30 and beyond. In July, we were 66K aging. In August, it was 137.7K. And in September, it was 302K. So when we add all of that up, it comes out to $1.7 million. And I know that the utilities department is currently, they have a job ad out for a collection specialist. So I'm not too sure where they are on that. And I know that the city manager's office, along with the customer service manager, Danielle, have been working with customers and making payment plans in order for them to pay down their balances. So, you know, at this point, I could defer to city manager, and he may be able to elaborate more on what's happening in the utilities department.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, thank you, Ms. Jessica Ortiz. Yeah, so as Ms. Ortiz mentioned, that we are working to fill an additional position with the utilities department, or AKA our customer services department, for a collection specialist. So we did conduct interviews on Friday. We interviewed 6 individuals. And I believe that we narrowed it down to the finalists to maybe make a selection by the end of this week. I think that will attribute a lot to a lot of the deficiencies or the these balances that are, in my opinion, way out of hand. A lot of these are not just water and wastewater. A lot of these accounts are just wastewater. So we have no means of collecting on that, because honestly, we cannot shut off the wastewater accounts. So a lot of these accounts just are wastewater only and trash. So a lot of these, and then some of these are, of course, water, wastewater, and garbage as well. So, but we are working to see if we can get some of these funds returned back. And like I say, we are working with the public because of the pandemic. If they're having issues with payment, and also in communicating with the the county of Rio Arriba with the CARES Act fund that they were granted in looking at getting some relief funds for some of these individuals that have been affected by the pandemic in regards to delinquency with their water and wastewater bill.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ortiz. You can continue.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez.
I'd just like to interject before we move on because it does touch base on what the city manager Martinez is talking about. And I'm curious to know if there's any relief from the CARES Act concerning this situation. I mean, if there's money for people and their mortgages, I think water and wastewater are essential services that people depend on, and the city's in a heck of a predicament with having to carry this much in bad debt. I mean, that's very taxing on the whole enterprise system on the whole. And I'm curious about whether or not we could apply for some money or apply some of the money that we received to this situation. Thank you.
City Manager.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez, like I had mentioned, we are working with the county of Rio Arriba in regards to this. Unfortunately, the funds that we were provided, we cannot use it to pay ourselves. So that's why we're going with through the county to see if there is some sort of a relief payment that they can provide to us in regards to delinquent water accounts. I know that the county is also working with Hemes Co-op Electric and North Central Solid Waste on that. I haven't got the solid determination of how they're proceeding on this, but as of the latter part of last week, they said it looked pretty promising in moving forward and possibly getting some funding for this type of relief.
Thank you. I would also recommend City Manager Martinez that we look at utilizing the County of Santa Fe for the Santa Fe County residents of the community that are in that predicament. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ortiz. You may continue.
All right, so moving on along to page 2, looking at a breakdown of our revenues. Again, 25% of the year elapsed. You can see in our general fund, we are at 25% of our year-to-date budget. The utility water is at 26.73, and our wastewater is at 24.11, just slightly under the 25% mark. Total revenues in the general fund year-to-date is $2,720,292. In the utility water fund, a total revenue of $819,631, and total revenue in our wastewater fund of $552,845. Moving on to page 3 on our expenditures. I'm sorry, my computer's a little slow this evening, so it's moving along. Okay, so looking at our expenditures, again, 25% of the year elapsed. In the general fund, we are at 22.74 expensed. In our utility water fund, we are at 18.7% expensed. And in our wastewater fund, we are at 18.04% expensed. Total expenditures in the general fund is $816,000. Wait, I'm sorry, that's looking at the monthly comparison. So year-to-date expenditures is $2,698,289. In our utility water fund, total expenditures is $687,664. And in our wastewater fund, it is $543,192. $163. So again, looking at the comparison of our revenues to our expenditures, we are doing pretty well in managing our expenses. And just to point out, in the general fund, our revenues, you'll see in the attached packet material, which is the budget status report, which gives the entire details of each of the funds line by line. In particular, our property tax revenue will be low, but we don't realize those revenues until January and then May/June of next year, just because of the timing of when the actual payments are due to the county. Moving along to our gross receipts revenue page 4 of 6. This is for business activity in the month of July, reported in August and distributed in September. And so for the month of September, we had received $882,347. A total gross receipts year-to-date collected $2,611,626. At this time last year, we had collected $2,704,396. So that's the combination of the July, August, and September numbers for 2019-2020. Therefore, this year we have a variance of $92,000. However, if you look at our bottom line total, it does look promising. Right now, we are trending at about 3% over our current year projection. So if, the economy holds tight, I know, with the pandemic and everything that we have been through, budget cuts, I'm pretty optimistic, like I've said before. And, all we can, do is hope for the best and continue that, and hope to continue that our economy thrives. Do we have any questions on our GRT page?
You can go ahead. Thank you, Ms. Ortiz.
Okay, moving along. I apologize for the delay and lag, but service is slow this evening. This next picture here shows our total revenue by source. As you can see, again, our state shared taxes is our biggest contributor of revenues into the general fund at 54%, followed by our local taxes at 34%. And then we have our miscellaneous, licenses and fines and forfeits, transfers coming in from other funds that make up our total revenue. So again, total revenue in the general fund is $2,720,292 for the first quarter. And looking at our expenditures, you can see that public safety is our biggest source of expenditures in the general fund, followed by the administrative costs, and then followed along by community services and public works, non-enterprise portion, of course. So total expenditures is $2,698,289. Moving on to page 6, this will show us a total picture of our revenues and expenditures in the general fund. Looking at our September revenues, $827,913. Our total expenditures of $816,975, leaving us a positive variance for the month of October of $10,938. And our total bottom line revenues less expenditures for the first quarter is $22,004. And as I mentioned, we did have some major expenditures in the first quarter. And so, hopefully the claims judgments and settlements, I know that's kind of concerning at this point. We budgeted $90,000 for the year and we've already spent $88,000. So we have $2,000 left for the remainder of the year. So that's, something that we just want to keep an eye on, but it's something that too, at this point, it's kind of inevitable, unless we, make changes and stuff like that. But these are costs that have been, from back in 2017, 2018 that we're now having to pay to travelers. And page 7 is a breakdown of the revenues and expenditures by line item. And so you can see 25% of the year elapsed. Bottom line revenue collection is 24%. And here you'd be able to see here on this page as well, where it shows the property taxes for Rio Arriba and Santa Fe at 7% and 4% collected. But as I mentioned, we don't realize those revenues until July and May of June of next year, 2021. And I stand for any questions. The following pages, like I said, of the budget status report, those are more informational, so you can look at those. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. But that's just a breakdown of all the department budgets by line item. And so you can see, what the position is.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ortiz. I appreciate it. Do we have any questions or comments from our counselors? Well, thank you very much. I think that was a good overview of where we're at, and we have to approve this as our item here. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you very much. We have a motion from Councilor Justin Salazar Torres with a second from Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez to approve the first quarter fiscal year budget report. Can we take a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar. Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez.
In favor.
Councilor John L. Ritchie.
In favor.
Councilor Dorothy Valdez.
For the motion.
Councilor Justin Salazar Torres.
In favor.
Councilor John Ramon Vigil.
For the motion.
Councilor Manuel J. Martinez.
In favor.
Councilor Denise D. Benavides. Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar. Motion carries.
Very good. Thank you very much. So now we will go on to a public hearing. We have the City of Espanola, New Mexico Resolution number 2019-01, Clean and Lean Update. We have a presentation by Planning and Land Use Director, Mr. Richard Hubler. Before we move on, Mr. Javier Martinez has the floor.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, I believe that you moved the item to be before the public hearing in regards to the.
That is absolutely correct. My apologies, and I just spaced that out. So before we move on to that, our agenda was approved with the next item proposed for council consideration, discussion, and action item. We have a request for co-sponsorship from the Church of Latter-day Saints for the use of the plaza grounds for meal pickup and distribution for the community on November 21st, 2020 from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. My apologies for that, and we have a presentation here by the Community Services Director, Mr. Scott Frost.
Can everyone hear me?
Now we can, yes.
Sorry about that. Mr. Mayor, I was just saying thank you for moving us forward on the agenda. We appreciate that. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the governing body. Hyperlinked on the report there is a request which we received 2 or 3 weeks ago from Mrs. Felicia Rodriguez. She's representing the LDS Church. She had approached the city about the possibility of using just the parking lot at the Misión Convento area as part of a food distribution that the church will be doing. In the explanation attached, she mentions that there are 4 locations they would like to use throughout the city. The one that we're considering right now is there at the plaza. The Community Services Committee voted overwhelmingly to approve the request in consideration of the fact that there will be no cost to the city whatsoever. They're merely asking to use the parking lot. It is clearly to the benefit of members of the city. 400 meals, hot meals, are slated to be distributed by the church that day in these various locations, free of charge. No money will change hands at any point. They did ask that the city marquee be used to advertise the event, that the parking lot be provided free of charge, and then if we had any other locations that in the other areas where they'd like to set up, that we could offer them, we would do so. But for the moment, what's before you now is the request to approve the request for the church to use the parking lot at the plaza to distribute free food there. I believe it's Saturday, November 21st.
Motion to approve, sir.
Second.
We have a motion from Councillor Justin Salazar Torres and a second from Councillor John Ritchie. Are there any questions or comments for discussion?
I got a comment, sir.
Yes, Councillor Justin Salazar Torres.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank the group for coming before us, and we appreciate everybody that comes forth and provides for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Seeing no other questions or comments.
Over here, Mayor.
Yes, I apologize. I can't see right now. So Councillor Manny Martinez, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I just want to echo Councillor Salazar and thank them for bringing this to us and allowing, of course, to be giving out food to our community. This is grateful. Mr. Frost, you did mention that if they're looking for other places, I don't know if the city is willing to, because I know that their idea was to spread out within different areas of the city, not just to have one particular place to distribute the food, so that this way there wouldn't be any, hopefully not big congregations of people, because it was basically going to be I believe they just drive through and then they would be handed over the food. But if there is another area that they might consider, or that the city might consider allowing them to use, I was thinking of the Ranchitos Park area, because that where the pool area is, because that is a pretty good sized parking area where they might be able to do that sort of a distribution. But I do want to thank them for bringing this to the city. That's 400 meals is a lot of people that are going to be fed, sir.
Absolutely. I was thinking the same thing. I don't know of any other location we might have that would be appropriate, but definitely that one is available. At our last meeting, we mentioned Miss Dora Terrazas mentioned or made available the senior center parking lot as well. And so both of those spots would certainly be made available if the group wishes to do so.
Thank you. And we have a question or comment from Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention also that they did mention that they were going to give meals at different sites. I know one of them was at their church on McCurdy and Fairview Lane. And then I believe there was another site, so maybe he could touch base on that. The other thing I wanted for him to talk about a little bit is how they will be handling the social distancing and handing out these meals given the COVID virus, and how they'll be dealing with that. So could Director Frost touch base on those two initiatives?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Regarding the locations, again, and my phone is getting low. I hope I don't run out of battery here. The only locations we might have on the north end of town that might work for them, they were hoping for somewhere around Lowe's or Walmart, and we don't have land there, but we do have the nice big parking lot at the Ranchitos Park. So if that is something that is of interest to them, by all means, we'll make that available. Then they have their location off on McCurdy Road. Then coming back to the other side of town, they've got the parking lot at the plaza, which we're considering now or I believe we'll offer to them now. And then the only other potential sites I can think of off the top of my head would be the senior center parking lot, which has been offered. And then maybe, I don't know, up on an industrial road, but that's kind of getting out of the populated areas. So we'll, and I'm receiving a text, the location near Santa Clara could possibly work. So that's another potential. We'll revisit with them and certainly make anything available that we have. We'll make it available to them in support of what is obviously a good cause. So yes, we will do that. Regarding the social distancing, the plan that is in place is to just enforce the governor's guidelines. The meals will be served in a clamshell box, which is the styrofoam box, open and closable box. Social distancing will be maintained. Individuals will, I haven't gone over the absolute specifics, whether an individual will take the meal to the car that drives up, but the consideration is that a lot of these folks are probably going to come in walking up. So what we've discussed is that they're just going to enforce the 6-foot rule. A person who is appropriately PPE'd will hand the meal to an individual who walks up or drives up, and then that person, once they've gone a safe distance, will invite the next one, or the people who are running the event will invite the next one up. So they're very conscious of these, the social distancing and the health implications of serving a meal like that, and they're going to take every step to make it happen. Much the same as what we're doing with the trick-or-treating. It's an event that we decided to, or the city decided to move forward with, and all the proper precautions are going to be taken as we do that as well. And our risk manager, Mr. Jeff Sargent, stamped his seal of approval on that, provided all those steps are taken. So certainly the training we get or the guidelines we put in place there will be carried over to the hot meal event.
Thank you, sir.
Seeing no further questions, we have a motion, and please forgive me, I don't remember, that was Councillor Justin Salazar Torres, I believe, with a second from John Ritchie. And we will do a roll call vote.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor.
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Counselor Dorothy Valdez,
For the motion.
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
Absolutely.
Counselor John Ramon Vihil,
For the motion.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez.
For the motion.
Motion carries.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And now we will go on to the public hearing. We have the City of Espanola, New Mexico Resolution number 2019-01, Clean and Lean update presented by Planning and Land Use Director, Mr. Richard Hubler.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. And Ms. Clerk, if we can bring up the presentation, please. All right, so we're before you here once again with an update on the status of the properties that are currently on our Clean and Lean list. Next slide. There are still 17 properties, same as we had a few months back. 4 properties from phase 1 are now totally complete. That includes the one on North Monterey, 2227 North McCurdy, 1015 West Bond, and then 800 Fairview. Go on to the next slide, please. These are some photos taken just last Wednesday from the different sites. This one is 750 North Monterey. That one has remained empty since it was demolished. Next slide. 2227 North McCurdy, also complete and has also remained empty. Next slide. The one at 1015 West Bond Street, we have had off and on problems with. In fact, we had to go back couple weeks ago and do a secondary cleanup and remove some debris that had started to accumulate. So this photo is from after that secondary cleanup took place. Next slide. And then 800 Fairview, we are seeing some squatting activity within that yellow barn. At one point in time, someone had cut down the garage door and closed it up. And that's when it really started seeing a lot of activity. We did go back out, raise that door again, chained it up this time, and are doing occasional patrols past there. But we might have to do a secondary cleanup on that property. On to the next slide. So we have 4 properties that are currently on phase 2. 3 of them are complete. That's the one at 1008 Cayuga Hill, the cleanup at 803 South Riverside, and then 2004 North McCurdy. And then, as we discussed at the last meeting, 1 is waiting for more funding. That's the 2-story apartments on 506 East Chamisa. Next slide. So this is the property 1008 Cayuga Hill. That demolition and cleanup is complete. Next slide. 803 South Riverside, the cleanup was complete. We are discovering that it's a bit of a challenge keeping it secured. I've discussed with our contractor about coming out and fixing that door in the back. Somebody apparently broke in there, so we'll have to close that up again. Next slide. 2004 North McCurdy was in process when we last spoke. 2 trailers were relocated instead of being demolished. The cleanup has been complete, so this one is done at this point in time. Next slide. This one, of course, is the apartments that are currently on pause. The asbestos abatement, as we discussed previously, was extensive. I'm still getting additional quotes on that. And then as we get forward in the year and do a budget review, we'll be able to determine if we want to allocate more funding towards this. Next slide. So we have 9 properties that remain. As we discussed in the last meeting, 2 of them were needed immediate action. That was the one at 901 Calle Quintana and the one at 804 State Road 76. Those are in process. So go on to the next slide. So this one, as you'll recall, had a structure fire earlier in the year. In fact, just before our last meeting in June, we did get demolition bids, and then several competing bids actually ended up soliciting 5 bids on this one, and got the asbestos bids, and that asbestos contract, asbestos abatement contract was very minimal, and that's been awarded and is scheduled to take place here in the next couple weeks. And then following that, then the demolition will commence. So that one will be done by the next time we speak. Next slide. A similar scenario with 804 State Road 76. The asbestos on this one was a little bit more because of that kind of red pinkish stucco color there, but not substantial. And underneath our threshold. And again, we had competing bids on that. So that one will also be, has been awarded and will be, abated here shortly, and then the demolition will follow. Next slide. Here we see the remaining properties. 601 Old Hospital Road is one we've recommended demolition. It was on a watch list previously. It was listed on the tax sale that has been put off indefinitely. It was supposed to have happened last December and then last April, and is now going to maybe happen next year sometime. We have noticed some apparent squatting activity. Neighbors have been calling that one in, so we may need to take action on this one as we move forward. Next slide. 1003 Calle Lopez, a family member is interested in redevelopment. We're monitoring it. He's been speaking with the utilities department about paying off the outstanding water bill. He's been working with us about coming up with a development plan. He's working to get it basically off the clean and lean list and back into a livable structure that'll be used. So we'll keep working with them and update you guys as anything changes there. Next slide. 906 East Pueblo, as we recently discussed, was sold. The new owners we've not had any luck making contact with yet to make sure that they're aware of what needs to happen with this property as far as getting into effective use. Nothing has been done to the property since the sale, however, so it is one that we're monitoring. There's no signs of squatting at this point in time, though. Next slide. Same thing, 101 North Riverside. We're just monitoring this one, no changes. Next slide. 117 South Coronado is another one. We've had several folks come to our office expressing interest in redevelopment. And nobody has yet submitted any plans for redevelopment, and I do not believe that the potential property sale has happened yet, although there was a party interested in buying it. It is one that's currently condemned, and it is one that we're monitoring. The condemnation on the structure does require that a new owner do some paperwork as far as acknowledging the condemned nature of the property. There's an affidavit and that sort of thing. So if that sale goes through, then we'll work to make sure that that paperwork gets done correctly. Next slide. 2119 A and B, North Riverside. Again, no changes there, just one that we're continuing to monitor. And the last slide. 312 Carr Lane was one obviously that had a structure fire a long time ago. We've seen several potential efforts that did sell from the USDA. We've seen several folks interested in moving in there, and that just hasn't happened yet. So it is one that we're monitoring. It's currently vacant, but no squatting activity happening there as far as we know at this point. That completes my presentation. I don't have any changes to the list recommended for this meeting. I would request that we revisit these properties in about 2-3 months after the holiday, maybe the second meeting in January, so that we can, kind of determine at that point in time if we want to take some of these off. Hopefully some of them will have been, cleaned up and, be eligible for removal at that point. But as of tonight, I don't have any recommendations for changes, just a request to continue the resolution.
Question?
You, Mr. Hubler. Was that Councillor Ritchie?
Yes,
Go right ahead. And then after that, we'll go to Councillor John Ramon Vigil.
thank you. Mr. Hubler, what is the time frame on these monitoring on the few? There's several properties you've got them under monitoring. What's the time frame? When do we stop monitoring and continue forward with either a demolition or with the properties?
Yes, sir, Councilor Ritchie. So to your question, the monitoring is what we have done since the beginning was kind of highlight those properties that were most in need of immediate action at the top of the list. And we've come to this body with occasional requests, for the 2 different phases of the RFP, and then the current current phase that we're working on, with just those 2 properties through a competitive bidding process to get them demolished. So the others remain on the list. Those ones that were not, again, I haven't recommended any for removal at this point. So they just have not been bad enough effectively to make it to the top of the list to be recommended for action. Our current issue, the demolition with the 901 Calle Quintana and the 804 State Road 76, is relatively inexpensive and allows us to tackle those 2 properties while we work on getting additional funding for the demolition contract that was already awarded by this body for the one on the apartments, the 2-story apartments on East Chamisa. So when we do get additional funding, then that would be our recommendation to do that one next. And then we'll need to find effectively more funds to move forward. All those that have been marked as completed, with just the one exception of a property that was recently done, have already had the liens filed on them against the property in the county. So if and when those properties do sell, then we'll recover that money. But as of yet, we have not recovered any money. We've just been spending money to address this nuisance problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor John Ramon Vigil.
Mr. Hubler, I wanted to ask you specifically about 1015 Bond Street and 1008 Calle Vigil. It appears that since we've demolished the structure, they've become more of a nuisance property now. I continues to get calls from constituents about 1015 Bond Street. It's been for a long time. It's been an abandoned home, and for squatters, they would leave their, how can I put this? Their drugs. They would leave them inside the home and out, and that would be in a safe situation. But now the squatters are dumping their needles and syringes onto the neighboring property. And I just wanted to see what our solution to that is going forward. I don't, because quite frankly, for the neighborhood, they feel that it's caused more of a problem tearing down the houses because it's attracted more squatters than the homes were abandoned. So I just wanted to see, Mr. Hubler, what kind of plan of action we were doing for 1015 Bond Street and 1008 Cuyahoga Hill, and trying to keep them out of the property and prevent them from camping pretty much.
Yes, Councilor Hill, you raise an excellent point. Those two properties, and a third one, which we haven't yet taken action on, that kind of connects those two, are a really good representative sample of the complexity of this challenge. Certainly on the kind of planning and land use side, you know, are dealing with unlivable structures, those that have had fires, or those that, you know, have suboptimal living conditions. You know, those things are somewhat straightforward to address. And definitely the demolition of those two homes represented a way to address those. Now that, as you indicated, does not solve the underlying problems and only partially addresses the underlying challenges. Particularly related to 1015 West Bond, I know that the gentleman that's been camping there and some of his friends and possibly relatives have been picked up by the PD numerous times for a variety of different things. That has not apparently deterred them from camping on the property. They were for a period living in a trailer, like a camper trailer that goes in the back of a pickup without the pickup, just parked on the ground there. That's what the secondary cleanup involved. You know, by scraping the lot clean, you know, trying to remove, you know, potential shelter, that acts partly as a deterrent against that kind of activity, but obviously in some cases it's not enough of a deterrent. We have tried to work with the individuals on both of those properties to refer them to, you know, assistance programs, you know, run by the government or by, you know, nonprofits locally, and you know, with limited success, unfortunately. As everybody knows, you know, if you don't have the desire to seek help, then, you know, even if the help is available, it doesn't get taken advantage of. So that is a challenge, and I certainly, you know, the police department and our office have been working to try and address it. But I am absolutely open to suggestions from, you know, anybody, including the neighbors. I know that the gentleman at 1015 made it in the paper for the police blotter several weeks in a row for, you know, his impact on the immediate neighbors, and certainly that's something I wish that we could do something about, and I'm just not sure what that action is.
Follow up, Mayor.
Yes, of course.
Mr. Hubler, I want to see what kind of alternatives we can come up with, if we have any legal grounds to fence the property or such. And I even want to go as further as saying, I believe the city, and it's not us directly, but we're complicit, because I've witnessed them taking water jugs and filling up the water. And I really sympathize with these people, but they go and get the water jugs and they fill them up at the faucets at the plaza. And then they go all the way up to Bond Street. And I mean, they pull them in a wagon, and it's just a sad situation that we have in our community. But we can't condone this kind of behavior. And I just want to see what kind of alternatives we can do in terms of we can fence the property, because it's becoming now a health hazard to the neighbors. The poor people that live immediately west of that property have suffered for a long time with that in the neighborhood. And quite frankly, I'm going to be honest with you. They've been indicating to me that it was actually fine with the house abandoned, because they would do their stuff in the house, not bother them. And now what's happened is it's on the property and it's affecting them, because now they're discarding their trash and such on their own property. You know, the other day they dumped a bunch of trash in the middle of the road, and I just took it upon myself. I went and picked it up and bagged it and took it to the nearest trash dumpster I could find. But, you know, people don't need to be subjected to living through this. I really hope that we can come up with a solution soon. I've been asking about this all summer, and the residents that are living up there are really beginning to get tired of it. And I really would welcome a meeting, Mr. Hubler, with you and maybe some of the residents, whatever we can do with social distancing. But we need to come up with a solution, because obviously it's not working with just saying, you know, you need to get off the property, because they continue to go there. Thank you, Mr. Hubler.
Thank you, Counselor.
Counselor Manny Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, these people that are staying in these places or camping out have some serious problems, surely mentally and sociologically, and also probably addictions. Have any of these people been referred to the Pathway Shelter or to Darren's place to see if they can get help through them?
So the Pathway Shelter is not currently having folks stay there, although they hope to be operational in that regard by Thanksgiving, is my understanding. I have had a conversation with the individual at 1015 West Bond Street about Darren's place, about Inside Out, about Reroute, about a variety of different things. And some days he seemed more receptive than others, but ultimately he's not participated in any of those programs. So that goes to my kind of earlier comment that I guess on the one hand, and I don't want to sound callous, but on the one hand, if your living situation is not bad enough to you as an individual, then there's no desire for change. And I guess he hasn't hit that spot yet, is my only thought.
Thank you. On a follow-up, is there any chance of utilizing community service workers to keep these areas clean during this time, at least until there can be a more permanent solution for those properties?
That's an excellent question, Councilor Martinez, and one that I thought of, and I know that there's nobody from the courts on tonight, and so I don't want to speak for them, but definitely it seems like, some of the activities that they're doing, could perhaps provide, staff to do, daily rounds maybe, and kind of, help maintain some of these things. We brought it up at a previous Public Safety Committee meeting about needle cleanups, and maybe this, when some of these a couple particular properties could be a trial program in that regard. So I can certainly reach out to Judge Salazar and see what his thoughts are on that.
Thank you. Perhaps they can also help these neighbors that are having to deal with this type of an issue, especially if it is needles and such. We don't want them to handle it as well. We would prefer that we handle it, I believe, for health issues. But thank you, Mr. Hubler. Thank you for all that you're doing. Everything is looking great. I just want to comment on the properties that they're not on your list, but they're off of Fairview Lane. I've seen a lot of disposing of trash and disposing of old buildings or sheds that were on one of the properties there on Fairview Lane. I don't recall the exact house number, but I think you know which one I'm speaking of. They look really well, and I hope they're starting to adhere to the conditions that you set forth on those condemned homes, sir. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Yes, certainly I can briefly. The house that you're referencing in particular is 612 Fairview Lane. That's one that was condemned by our office, and then we worked with the property owner to help get that one cleaned up. And he actually paid the contractor that we normally utilize to do that cleanup. So yeah, we're hoping that that now that we've kind of similar to the Bond Street one, and now that we've kind of removed some hiding places, it'll not harbor the kind of activity that we don't want to see there.
I know that on that particular property across the street from it, that did reach some media attention. Some people came down and helped that family clean the property. Is there still a lot more stuff that these people have to do before they become get off the being as far as being condemned by the city?
Yeah, so the property that you're referencing, 603 Fairview, that got the media attention, that one has a couple different issues that the family members are working through. A death in the family of the responsible party kind of created the situation that they're in now. But we've had good conversations with the children, and they're working through a number of issues to try and see about kind of making that property livable again. It has been secured and mostly cleaned up. And we'll be doing some final touch-up here shortly on that, as far as getting it cleaned up.
Thank you, Mr. Hubler. Thank you so much.
Do we have any other counselors before we move on to the hearing? All right, very good. Seeing none, we'll go on to the resolution, which I will read and then open the hearing at that time. City of Espanola, New Mexico, Resolution Number 2019-01, a resolution requiring the prompt removal of ruined, damaged, and dilapidated structures, materials, debris, and abandoned vehicles to abate a menace to the public comfort, health, safety, and welfare at the following locations: 506 East Chamisa Street, apartments 1 through 4, 803 South Riverside Drive, 312 Carr Lane, 750 North Monterey Lane, 1015 West Bond Street, 1008 Calle Vigil, 901 Calle Quintana, 601 Old Hospital Road, 906 East Pueblo Street, 718 and 800 A Fairview Lane, 117 South Coronado Avenue, apartments 1 through 6, 101 North Riverside Drive, 804 A and B State Road 76, 2227 A and B North McCurdy Road, 1003 A and B Calle Lopez, 2119 A and B North Riverside Drive, 2004 North McCurdy Road, Espanola, New Mexico 87532, in the city of Espanola, Santa Fe, and or Rio Arriba counties, New Mexico, the properties, requiring the owner or owners of the properties to promptly commence and complete the removal from the properties of all ruined, damaged, and dilapidated structures, materials, debris, and abandoned vehicles, including but not limited to structures, abandoned motor vehicles, manufactured or mobile residential commercial structures, travel trailers, weeds, dead tree limbs, rubbish, and other debris, provided that an owner, occupant, or agent in charge of any individual property may file written objections to this resolution, seeking a hearing before the governing body of the city of Espanola, authorizing the administration of the city of Espanola to cause removal of the ruined, damaged, and dilapidated structures, materials, debris, and abandoned vehicles if owners of an individual property do not timely undertake such removal, and providing that the governing body of the city of Espanola, the city council, authorizes the city administrator to take actions it deems necessary or convenient to lien the individual properties, pursue foreclosure of the property by any available legal remedy so as to recover its costs and expenses incurred in cleaning the property. See, what is the time now? It is now 8:54 p.m. I now open this meeting. And we would like to hear from anybody in favor of this resolution. Anybody from the audience at all? Do we have anybody signed up or in public commentary? We do not. Do we have anybody else on that may wish to speak in favor of the resolution? If we have anybody who would like to speak against the resolution, you also are afforded that opportunity right now. And again, do we have anybody signed up in the public plenary to be against it? The answer is no. Seeing no comments or options or anybody else coming forward, I will now close the hearing at 8:55 p.m. That having been the case, we'd now like to take a motion for approval of the resolution and a continued hearing on the
Motion to approve, sir.
Second.
Thank you very much. We have a motion from Councilor Justin Salazar Torres and a second from Councilor Manny Martinez with another meeting on January 26th, 2021. Is that okay to add that to the motion, Councilor Justin Salazar Torres?
Absolutely. I'll amend my motion.
Thank you. And okay for you as well, Councilor Manny Martinez?
Yes, sir.
Very good. We will then take a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor.
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Counselor Dorothy Valdez,
In favor.
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
In favor.
Counselor John Ramon Vigil,
In favor.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez.
For the motion.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure seeing everybody tonight. Thank you very much for your participation. We've reached the end of our agenda and we now call for adjournment. It is 8:57 PM. Everybody have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Have a good evening.
Good night.